Hi, my name is Cesar Andres Parreño. I'm an Ecuadorian tenor, and I'm here to talk a little bit about Manuel Ponce's Estrellita. Manuel Ponce is one of the most recognized Mexican composers and Latin American composers in the 20th century. He was born in 1882 and he died in 1948. He was a very prominent part of the Mexican concert scene that was very popular in the 20th century, who sadly subsided and is pretty much extinct these days. His compositions are strongly influenced by the form and harmonies of traditional songs, which is something Latin American composers have really chosen to highlight in their works, because just to make a little more representation of their own country and their own traditions. Estrellita directly translates to little star. He referred to this piece as a little nostalgia, as a nostalgia viva, a living nostalgia, which really changed my way of thinking about the piece from going from a song to a song about the moment you feel when missing somebody you love, which for me it's a little more different in the mood. Some of the characteristics of this piece are primarily the mood being nostalgic. There is a big range that starts from a low C to an A in just one phrase, which would be, I would say, the most challenging and the most important part, because it repeats 3 times. This phrase really requires a lot of smoothness from your lower register to your high register. So it's something that I would really recommend practicing a lot until you reach the level of smoothness that you're comfortable with. I would recommend recording yourself and just checking what's not working, what is working. Maybe check with your teacher and try to figure out a way to make that work, because that really is what people listen to in this piece. This piece is really sung by many tenors, some sopranos too. But they are listening for that smoothness in that specific part. Sorry, I have a couple notes here. I would also say bring differences to the 3 different Estrellita de Lejano Cielo, the same phrase that repeats twice at the beginning and then at the end, because it's easy just to sing the 2 initial parts just sort of the same and wait for the 3rd part that is different and then go into the final repeat of the first phrase. However, I would really recommend either you can start with like a more soft piano first phrase and then go to like a more intense, or the other way around. The way I did it in the piece, I think it was starting with a little more declaration and then it was a little more intimate, that would change to the new phrase that has different music and words, and then just end up with a little like a crescendo of emotion towards the last repeat of the first section. I think that's what I did. But just play with it. Just don't make it the same. I would really recommend you trying to put different things in it, because it just makes the piece a little bit more alive. I would say this piece is also all about intimacy. You really, the people who listen to you sing into this piece really want to get into your world. I wouldn't say try to entertain them. You just need to be living in the moment of the piece, and they are already there watching you. You don't need to do things. You need to be juggling. You don't need to be doing big gestures to call their attention, because they're already there listening to you. You also have to trust the audience to do their job, which is paying attention to you. So I would really encourage being in your own world. Even close your eyes for a little bit if you need to, but just make them go towards you instead of trying to call for their attention, because you have their attention already. In my experience while learning this piece, obviously, like, it's very important to have the diction and the translations ready. I think you pretty much would know that. I'm very lucky that I speak Spanish. I grew up in Ecuador my entire life, so that really was not an issue for me. If you don't have access to like a Spanish coach, and if you have a friend who speaks Spanish fluently, that's good enough, you know. I don't think you need to try to find a Mexican accent. I would try to stay away from a Spanish from Spain accent with the theo, gracias, instead of gracias, for example. because that really is not the style. This is Latin American Spanish, not Spanish from Spain. And also try not to use any Argentinian accent because it's also different. So yeah, honestly, like you can, even if you choose to work on this piece, you can listen to my recording and try to get it, or you listen to many of the recordings. I would recommend Javier Camarena has an excellent recording of this. Sorry. Translations is personal attachment to the piece. If you have the experience of missing somebody you love, it doesn't necessarily have to be romantic. It would be a great thing to try to put that emotion of missing them into this piece. If that's how you roll, like you don't necessarily have to do that. Just try to find somebody that grounds the piece from being music to something personal for yourself. I think that would be very useful. As I mentioned earlier, practice the low to high range until you have the smoothness you want. Oh, I'm sorry, there's a plane coming on right now. I may edit this, I don't know yet. Enjoy it while it lasts. Also another thing, now that the plane passed, I don't know if you could even hear it. I would prioritize to do the entire idea of the text. Estrellita de lejano cielo que miras mi dolor, que sabes mi sufrir. Instead of estrellita de lejano cielo que miras mi dolor, because that you're fragmenting the sentence, the idea, in two parts when it's just one. And I know there's a rest, but you can still pick up the same energy that it had before, even though there's a rest, to keep the same idea. Be careful about coming out from the passaggio from the high notes. Try to still have your support and your gut engaged throughout this entire thing, or the voice has a tendency to crack. At least that's my experience. I have to remind myself of that all the time. And yeah, just spend some time experimenting on the dynamics until you find something that you really like and you think it's kind of unique to you. Because this is one of the pieces that I would really say that what you want to do is not show the people who are listening to you, look, I can sing this perfectly, and the high note sounds very good, and my low notes are also good. You want this to be a very honest piece, and in order to do that, you have to really have the technical part of it secure, so you can start focusing more about feeling and more about the interpretation of the piece. So I wouldn't let myself be intimidated by the high note. Just try focusing on the actual meaning and feeling of the piece. I think that is all I have on my notes for this. I don't know how long this video had to be. It's about to be 8 minutes. And yeah, thank you so much for listening.